All right, we want to thank you. That's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu speaking there and making all the necessary meaning for that second extraordinary summit, addressing the major issues on the Nigerian coup. We are joining us now someone who has also been in the seat of power, former SA to Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. Mr. Lalu Akande, we'd like to welcome you to New Dawn. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
All right, let's begin with you. We also have right here Honorable Habib Ajayi. So the two of you will be interfacing with the two of you. Now let's look at your perspective. ECOWAS first started, AU has joined, suspended Niger now over the coup. Do you foresee an end in sight, or is this just an exercise in futility?
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, to go straight to the question, there certainly will be a resolution of this matter, and I am of the view, just like General Abdul Salami said yesterday after his meeting with the president at the villa, that diplomacy is going to work eventually. Of course, we've seen the possibility of that with the opening up by the coup leaders in Niger. They have started to talk. They have made a proposal, for a duration after which they will restore power to civilians. But I think it is very important that ECOWAS maintains its very strong stance against the very idea of toppling of a democratic government. I think that we should commend the courage and the boldness of ECOWAS, of course, led by Nigeria, to condemn, in no mean terms, the very idea of a coup. And this is happening very close, we cannot afford to be silent. But I do share the opinion the best way to sort this matter would be through a very robust engagement that is defined by and large with diplomacy. And I think we already have some progress on that front.
Mr. Akode, thank you for joining us again. About a week ago, the military junta in Niger announced a 3-year transition program or transition plan, and of course, the AU and ECOWAS, and of course, the various interests in the world were against it, saying the timetable or the announcement is too long for them. Let's look at it from this point of view. If the junta brings down the period of transition, let's say maybe for 1 year or 2 years, will it affect the level of sanction and change the focus of a discussion now?
Well, I mean, I think in my own personal view, I think a 3-year transitional plan is rather too long, in the circumstances. But the fact that the junta have started speaking of how they will exit power, that is in itself is something. It's a breakthrough, as it were, after several weeks of forcing to be an impasse. Now, but whether that will then lead to, first of all, I said it's not. I think it's too long. But whether that will lead to the ECOWAS leaders considering lifting some of the sanctions or softening the sanctions. I wouldn't want to speculate on what next they would do. But what I think is important, two things I think is important here. First is for ECOWAS to maintain a very firm stance and grip, to say that, look, we consider the idea of a coup, we consider it as a serious incursion and an anathema. That is very important. It's very important to be very clear, sound, brave, courageous, insistent on that point. But the second important thing is to be sufficiently engaged to resolve the matter diplomatically. Now, most people don't know, and I would like to bring this to the table, that in 1967, when Nigeria was going through a civil war, Niger, against the trend from its colonial masters, actually supported Nigeria. Niger supported the federal government during the civil war. So we have a very robust, relationship with Niger. Besides the fact that our people in the north and Nigerians in that side of the border, they share the same affinity. So we have a history that goes very, very long and quite mutual benefits that will encourage us to pursue vigorously the channel of diplomacy. But it's important that as we pursue the channel of diplomacy, that ECOWAS leaders must continue to be very, very firm that the region does not consider this idea of coup as a joke. It's a very serious matter. But to your point, I think it is good that we are now talking about duration. But whether ECOWAS will then lift some of the sanctions, I think we will leave that to the purview of the leaders who have far more information and greater detail than some of us.
Okay, now let me come to Honorable Ajayi here. At worst, there's going to be military intervention. But when it comes to military intervention, has it ever worked? Is it not just at the end of the day? Although I know that Liberian experience, when this gunboat politics between ECOMOG and Liberia, eventually Samuel Doe died, and then Yomi Johnson came in. I'm not too sure we had a very smooth end to that military intervention. So the question now is, with the situation on ground, Honorable Mr. Akonde has been saying, okay, ECOWAS has, taking a good step. But then, one of our callers said, if ECOWAS wants to do the military intervention, it should do it now. Because by the time they say they want to now do any military intervention, Russia is already on ground. So at the end of the day, when they want to now have any military intervention, because basically what some people say is that Niger will be buying for time, time to stabilize themselves, time to reach out to other people. And then the ECOWAS will still be doing discussions, still be doing diplomacy, they are, solidifying their base. And by eventually, when they now, they see that they have a firm routine. If you remember very well when Abacha first came in, Abacha brought in all the proponents of the June 12 crisis, used them to stabilize his government. The moment he got, some stability, he began to dispense with it. So some people are of the opinion that ECOWAS needs to be more decisive now.
See, Africans are aware of all this. They know that is the style. Okay. When they come into power, the first thing they do is to bring in people and want to justify their incursion. Okay. But only recently, about 10 days ago, 10, 12 days ago, somebody who is saying that is ready to move away is bringing in about 21 people to become ministers. And those ones will also have their support.
Yeah.
They have their support base. I mean, don't forget, whether you like it or not, their ethnic group will still say, oh, this is the turn of our person and all that and all that. But the most important thing, as Mr. Lalu mentioned, is the need for us to allow the leaders to take decisions promptly.
Okay.
Now, whether you take that decision now or later, it does not prevent, you know, the Russians' support for the juntas in Niger. I mean, I can take home for free. Okay. Now, the AU is considering a kind of standby force to restore democracy in Niger. That I think that should be done immediately. And if you look at the standby force they advocated, the countries who are now into the league of military rules, like Mali and all that, they are not joining, they are not part of it.
Yes.
So
Expectedly.
every time you have interest. Even the coup itself in the Niger Republic has been tagged anti-West.
Okay.
It's quite anti-West. So there are a lot of interest in all this. What is very important is the peaceful resolution of the crisis. Now, I also agree, 3 years to do what? 3 years to start justifying yourself. After that 3 years, then the electoral body in that country will come out to say that they cannot conduct this election for various reasons. And then they will meet and then get another 1 year. When are we going to, when are we going to have people? And then what is the reason for jettisoning the constitution which bring in people through ballots in the Niger Republic? Nobody has been able to justify that. The only thing, and that is always the trend, is that, oh, there is no good governance. People are complaining. Corruption is... Give them 12 months in the Niger Republic. It's still going to be the same. So, as I said, the good thing is that they are now giving access to the representative of, United Nations, ECOWAS, and the rest. Before, they weren't considering dialogue. Now they have started, with Abubakar-led delegation. They had access, according to them, to the president as well as the head of the military junta. These are good development that, okay, we can follow up as, towards the peaceful resolution of the crisis in the Niger Republic. But as Africa, we must do our best to ensure that there must be a master plan in Africa to a kind of ensuring that this military coup or military takeover in African nations will put a stop to this. How we're going to achieve that, I think, is for people like you and I to sit down and fashion out another means. One of them is good governance. We have identified that. The other one is that the sanctions are no longer working. Okay. And because of various interests, you mentioned the northern Nigeria. Of course, they said they had their own cousins and brothers in that country, and when you talk of war, nobody knows who will survive. Nobody knows who will no longer be around. But what is important is that there are a lot of interests that you have to take into consideration in bringing in force through military intervention, and to send signals to other African nations that it is no longer fashionable to have a military coup in Africa.
Okay.
I'll come back to you, Mr. Konde. At the start of this crisis, the body language of President Bola Tinubu was to the effect that we have to militarily enforce the return of civil rule to Niger Republic. And of course, that pronouncement, that movement attracted reactions from a section of this country, and of course, the northern senators, and of course, the Iowa Congress vehemently opposed that move before ECOWAS and AU now take over. Now, my question is, in case there is war, there is military intervention in the Niger Republic, what do you think that will bring back home, the effect on Nigerians generally?
Well, thank you. I think it was the ECOWAS that decided that they would not be taking out the options of military intervention. It wasn't the president that took that decision by itself. And even though we all know that Nigeria plays a major role in ECOWAS, I think it is fair to reflect exactly the fact that this was a decision of ECOWAS to also say that, look, if all else fails, ECOWAS will be prepared to do what is needful to correct, what is clearly something that should be strongly discouraged. Niger is pretty too close for us not to sound very, very serious on this matter. So I think that the boldness and the courage to be able to say that, look, we want this thing resolved. We will explore all the options on the table, and failing which we will be prepared to enforce, the democracy that the people of Niger, have clearly chose, in the last election. Someone won the election to be there for a particular term of office, and the democratic way of removing that person is not through a coup. So I think that, like I said, it is important, to commend the ECOWAS for that now. But on your question of when, so for what will happen if there is a war, I hope there wouldn't be a war. I hope that we will find a diplomatic solution. And if you follow the news yesterday, former military president Abdulsalami Abubakar, with the chair of the ECOWAS Commission, they were at the villa yesterday and held closed-door meetings with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and General Abdulsalami and the ECOWAS Commission chairman came out to speak to the press to say that we will find a diplomatic path to resolving the matter. So I don't want us to get into the speculation of whether there will be war. Of course, I've noted that there is quite a bit of pushback, in the country generally, to the idea of a military resolution, because people fear that it might lead to war. Now, I don't necessarily share the view